Welcome back once again as we continue to where we were yesterday. You remember we were studying on what being a foolish woman or a shameful woman is. What do we say or what do we mean when we say that someone is a foolish? It means that this person is doing life without God's thought of line aligned in his mind. So in other words, you might be a Christian, but you are still foolish. And also you might not be a Christian, you are totally foolish. So in other words, it's one thing to be carnal person, but also it's another thing to be a Christian who is carnally minded. So still, though you have different identities, but your lifestyle, they will look the same. Now, not forgetting where we are heading. Today's part 2 of what you were learning yesterday. You remember when we read in the second epistle that Paul wrote to Corinthians chapter 5 verse 18 all the way down, we see that you've been given the ministry of reconciliation. Now that ministry of reconciliation, it is not something we do only once. It's something that we do for a lifetime. Now, this topic can be huge, but we'll try to make it as shorter as it can be, but also understandable, because we are not here to make things shorter. We are here to make things understandable. So I usually hear people, I won't take wrong. I listen, even if you take the whole day teaching, please teach people. That's why you are there. The end goal is not to make people feel like you can teach faster. It is to teach. So that is for people who teach. Now, today we would like to go and ask ourselves what we've been seeing in the society. As we go back to read 12 and then verse 4 in Proverbs. A virtuous and excellent wife, worthy of honor, is the crown of her husband. But she who shames him with her foolishness is like rottenness in his bones. Now, do you remember when we read in the book of which we'll read, I believe tomorrow when we go to part 3 of this, in the first epistle that Peter wrote, chapter 2 and then verse 9 all the way down, that you are called to show the excellencies of the one who called us, and that is Jesus Christ. So they are saying, in other words, every woman should have a character of Jesus that shows the excellencies of who God is. Do you know that is what you've been called to do? To proclaim the goodness, the excellences of what God has done for humankind. So now, when we bring it now home, we need to understand that when we say someone is a minister, I usually hear people who say, I'm a full-time minister. That vocabulary, it has been stolen. Every Christian, okay, let me put it this way. Every disciple of Jesus Christ is a full-time minister. Because salvation, okay, let's suppose you are a Kenyan. There is no day you can cease to be a Kenyan. Because that's your identity. Even if you go in another country, you are still a Kenyan. Even if you deny your identity, you still have a language or blood of a Kenyan. So, when we say that someone is a full-time minister because simply they are hired, then I think we downgrade that word. Because it means that even this person at night, they should be really ministering. Yes, I know. We should be ministering always. But the people who are hired, most of them at night, they don't minister. Let's be genuine. Few of them who can even receive your call. So a Christian in this generation who is a woman, who is a male, you need to understand that what you do from the day, usually from the day you are in your mother's womb, if it were possible you were to be born a Christian or a disciple of Jesus. Have you ever seen what industries are doing? When we talk about the industry of models, why do you think they're exposing the women's body? Okay. Athletes, those who do Olympics or those who watch them. Why do you think that we see these women who are swimming or who are jumping? They are wearing and their inner thighs are out. Their vaginas almost exposed. Do you think the companies that make clothes, they cannot make another cloth that is flexible that can cover a woman's body? Of course they can. But you see, that's the whole point. Those are the people who want to who want to see the world corrupted. We need to understand these things. You know, they have made us believe that if a woman is on a swimming pool, she must be in a bikini. No, no. Imagine she shouldn't. You can argue with that, but for me, you cannot tell me that when you're in a church, you are busy telling and also wearing things that cover your body. But tomorrow, the same group, the same people who you've been telling that, when you go to a beach, they are seeing your boobs outside. They are seeing your inner thighs. I mean, do you think these people's mind, because you're on the beach, their mindset are like, do they supposed to be the same people who you've been saying, if I'm on a pulpit, I should be honorable? In other words, that shows we are not consistent in the work of ministry. Ministry is a lifestyle. That's why we say ministry is a full-time task. Not because you are in a church. That's the problem. People who work in a church, we think in local fellowships, we think that those are the ministers. It can be pastors, bishops. We think those are the full-time ministers. No. Yes, they are. But as so long as you've received the Christ, you become automatically a full-time minister. The most thing you should be now concerned is, how do I minister now? Am I ministering a faithful son of God, or am I ministering based on what I think? That is very important. Go to a saloon, or based on where you've been living, but I think the standard is barbershop. The women who come, the someone who will come to massage your head, it will not be a man. It will be a woman. If a woman goes for cosmetic shop for manicure or pedicure, guess who they bring? A male. Do you think these people are stupid? Let's be genuine. Who should know a woman's fingernails than a fellow woman? Yeah. Have you ever thought about it like that? So that even some of you, when you go and you are not wearing as you ought to be, remember the word, the cloth industry. Even if maybe your nakedness get revealed, at least it's before a fellow lady. Not that it is appropriate still, but at least honorable. I can tell you sometimes when I pass around those shops when I'm moving, because nowadays they are everywhere, you see a woman wearing a miniskirt before a man, and the man is seated under her. Then you wonder, even if this man maybe might say, I don't mind, but this is not the right way to go. Why should another man see the thighs that belong to your husband or your future husband? Let me tell you who are not yet married, one of the things that you majorly regret, it is any conjugal right, whether kiss, whether touch, whether smile, whether affection, that you ever gave outside, which primarily belonged to your husband. Believe you me, I know you might have gotten saved and everything, but that will hit you. Not as guilty per se, but to most of you to be guilty because you even never dealt with it. To you, you are like, it was before I knew Christ, so what? Listen, it doesn't mean that your hem did not go and your hem wasn't yours. It was your husband's to enjoy. So the fact that you took it away, you can't just take it as something as simple. You man who took away someone's hem or someone's pleasure or someone's privacy, you can't just say, she's the one who came to me. Listen, there is another man's dignity that you took away. Can these things be handled? Yeah, it is true. If they are spoken out, dealt with, yes, memories can still be there, but the guilt can really be demolished. But too bad, I'm saying this as someone who sits with couples and young men and young women. Most of them, until they get in their marriage, they think the day they got saved, they hid automatically. Wait until they reach there. The triggers start. And marriages, they get into chaos. Many women who can't dare to marry or to be married because they feel there is something that they lost. So these things, we might say them here and you think they are right. But me or even another person who is deeper into that area of marriage, they can tell you they are not just simple things. Let me put it this way. Suggest you go to high school, primary, they steal your marks. And then you go to high school, they steal your marks. and then you go to university, still your marks. Do you think your academic record, it will be the same? When I apply with A+, and you apply with B, brains, do you think it will be the same? No. So that's why also, even in other area it works. Please, cherish your body, because that is the temple of the Holy Spirit. What you did, stop from there. From now, be focused and do what you ought to do. Another question I would like to ask, why would a woman come in a salon to squeeze my head? In our days, even I saw, they do open and then they start to massage your neck. Now, my head and my neck, why do they relate? But they know. A head, it is like touching a woman's thighs, or a woman's, for a man, most of us. Others, they even remove their shirts. One day I passed somewhere in a Kinyoza, and then me and my wife, we saw a man, he's been striped to the upper side. They are just touching the nipples. I'm like, to most men, nipples, it is a arousing part. And then you wonder why men are fornicating. We wonder why sexuality is not stopping. Us who believe in Jesus Christ, there are things we should intentionally refuse to indulge in. Regardless of any, there are things we must. Don't say that either way I have lost my virginity, whether I'm a man or a male or a woman. So what? Listen. The never is the best. The lesser is better. So don't say that, let me continue. Listen. Every experience you get to have, every kiss, every touch, there is what we call muscle memory. Another day you'll be kissed by a man who has married you. He will trigger all of those men who ever kissed you. Please stop it. But you know it is a peg. Listen, stop it.